It's your boy, Sir Splash.
Say you're gonna beat Splash, put it on the Bible. Whole game's trash, boy, put it on a cycle. Money talks, really I don't understand. Said he wants smoke, but they all do the running man. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Sir Splash, and it's been a while since I've made a video, especially covering a character. Been really busy at work. We had a spring break for public school, so I was running camps, often working at least 10 hours. And I come home, have to do my own college work, and was pretty much too busy for videos last week. But we're kicking off this week with a very interesting one. My neighbor, who everyone knows is pretty much omnipotent when it comes to comics, he is one of the premier collectors of comics in the world. He gave me a comic book series to read called Miracle Man from Eclipse Comics, originally written by Alan Moore. Some people know who Miracle Man is, however, this is a different one. The one they refer to is from Spawn and other lines of comics. This is the original Miracle Man, and is a completely unique character because Alan Moore did not fuck with the writer of Spawn, Todd McFarlane. Thought he was a piece of shit, which he was. And so instead of allowing him to have that original story, he gave it to his buddy Neil Gaiman, who continued to write it after, I believe, issue 16. So this is a completely unique story within Eclipse Comics in its own story. It's not like any of the other Miracle Men stories. So as a result, I haven't talked to anyone besides my neighbor who has read this story. And Miracle Man is pretty broken. So we're going to get into his character and what he can do. And I really hope you enjoy learning about the strongest character you've probably never heard of. Now, oftentimes, the people who watch these kind of videos assume it's clickbait, strongest character you've never heard of. Well, you don't really have to worry in this case because this is legit. No one I know, like I said, except my neighbor, the god of comics, knows of this character nor his powers. In this video, I'm going to present Eclipse Comics' Miracle Man, perhaps the most tragic but overpowered character you've never heard of. His real name is Michael Moran. He was a normal, boring guy for many years. I believe he started out as a paperboy. Then he remembered saying the magic word Komoda, and he once more becomes the godlike Miracle Man. He was forced to become so to battle his former partner, Kid Miracle Man, also known as Bates. Bates had remained in his form for decades and had gone mad and grew into what they call the Dragons. Alan Moore is such a great writer, and it's basically, we see in the introduction of Bates, he writes, one man became a normal man again, lived his life. One man did not go back and became the Dragon. Bates becomes a very complex villain that you actually sympathize with, even though he's batshit crazy. Now, after he threatens Miracle Man's wife in order to make him transform, Bates and Miracle Man battle. Bates kicks his ass for most of the fight, but eventually reverts back to his child form, who is actually completely innocent and traumatized from the experience of not being out for so many years. After this battle, Miracle Man can't help but switch to his god form off and on. Eventually, he is faced with his creator, Gargunza. The Doctor wants Miracle Man's unborn child, who he thinks is the key to his immortality. We then learn his child will be just like him, and is advanced in intelligence even in the womb. We actually see a very cool part where they run like an ultrasound, and the Doctor looks into the eyes of Miracle Man's child, who stares back like a demon. He's like, oh shit. We then learn his child will be just like him and is advanced and pretty much godlike already, and is eventually named Winter. Eventually, Miracle Man snaps when this happens because he was suppressed back to his human form by a trick word Gargunza had planted in his subconscious. But when he comes back, he literally picks up Gargunza, takes him up into space, and then throws him at the earth, killing him. Later, Miracle Man meets godlike beings and becomes a part of their pantheon. This is when his wife leaves him. It's very sad. She is terrified of their daughter, who she feels like is controlling her, which she actually is. Her husband is, kind of stuck in his ways. As Miracle Man, he's kind of just becoming obsessive with the God state. And she literally says, I feel like I'm dating an animal. I can't do this anymore. It's not natural. So she leaves them. And this is when we see he eventually goes somewhere and buries quote, buries himself, creates a funeral site, burial ground for Michael Moran, and gives up being a normal person. Bates, meanwhile, is a kid in the hospital suppressing his other self. We see him constantly fighting his inner demon and refusing to go back to Kid Miracle Man, the dragon, even though the dragon tells him, you're gonna do it, Chief. Like, there's no way around it. It's so well written, very sad. Bates is one of the best villains I've ever read. Eventually, dude, this comic does not hold back. It's very brutal. We see Bates, the kid. He keeps getting the shit kicked out of him by the other kids there, but he refuses. He's like, I'll die before I go back to being a monster. But we see his limits. When bullies pin him down, tear his clothes off, and are gonna rape him, he's like, nah, like, I'll take an ass whooping, I'll take, beatings to death, but my butthole's mine, Chief. And so he's crying, and he says, I'm sorry, world, and reverts back to the dragon and goes completely apeshit. In this battle, half of London ends up getting destroyed. When he gets like stuff phased into his head by aliens and like impaled several times, he eventually reverts back to his child form. Bates does, and in this form, it's very sad. We see Miracle Man holding him, and he says, "I'm gonna help you. Never have to worry about going back." And the kid's crying. He's like, "Thank you so much. I just want to be free." And we see Miracle Man rip his head off because there really was no way to stop it. It's just an eventuality. But it is still fucked up. But half of London was destroyed after this. Miracle Man and his gang go on to change the world and make it, quote, perfect. This is when, we see several times, he's basically a god now. People worship him. They go to his temple high in the sky, which they call Olympus, pray to him, ask him for stuff like to return loved one and stuff like that. And we eventually see him bring back young Miracle Man, who had died years before. Young Miracle Man adjusts to this world. He's like, what the hell is going on? It's a very crazy and sad ending, but it kind of illustrates what, like, the flaws of human nature, even when they think they've ascended. So young Miracle Man, he's talking to regular Miracle Man, and Miracle Woman had been in Miracle Man's head, telling him like she thought young Miracle Man was gay for him by the way he looked at him when he was a kid. So he's very disconnected from reality at this point, Miracle Man, because he thinks he's God, and he kisses young Miracle Man. He's like, I'm gonna give you what you always wanted, and he gets his shit rocked by young Miracle Man, who at first you're like, yo, he's just like missing me with that gay shit, but it really kind of illustrates how wrong they are, even when they think they're omnipotent, when they think they're gods. He didn't look at him in that way because he's like, you're a god, like I want to bang you. He looked at him like that way because he was his role model. He was his idol. He's who he worked with, looked up to growing up. That was like his hero. That's like your favorite basketball player, football player. You're not gay for them. You're just like, yo, like, he's the man. I want to be like him. I want to be like how he portrays himself. But this version of Miracle Man is so far gone, so far disconnected from reality, that he can't even fathom a simple kid looking up to his idol. So it ends with young Miracle Man pretty much, making him bleed, breaking his nose, and then he says, fuck off, don't ever talk to me again. He's crying, and he flies away, galaxies away, we're assuming. And that's pretty much the end of the story, which it's a tragic tale, so well written. Alan Moore eventually gave it over, I think, after issue 16 to Neil Gaiman, who finished it out pretty strong. And it's very good, very hard to find for people. In fact, issue 15 is one of the most rare comics in the world. At least it was for a long amount of time until it was reprinted, but my neighbor has the original, so it's worth a shit ton of money. But anyway, let's get into what you came here for, the power. In the first couple issues, we see Miracle Man has casually immeasurable speed. He and his squad use atomic speed to time travel in order to stop future warriors from invading. Their weapons were vastly above ours, i.e. our nukes, but they did nothing to Miracle Man and his Goonies. Later, we actually see irrelevant speed. Miracle Man travels to the God Realm. This realm is stated to be so far gone that it's no longer comprehensible, and concepts like distance are irrelevant. Since this would be outside of dimensions, this would be a relevant speed since he easily traveled here. We discover that the Miracle Man lineage derives their power from a source that predates concepts like gods, time, and such. This is shown when aliens that predated primordial entities attack Earth and in turn attack Miracle Man. Later, Bates returns looking to raise the Earth. In their conflict, Miracle Man learns of an ancient power-up via his time travel. Miracle Man goes back in time to every fight he's been in. He then absorbs the powers of the battles, displayed in the battles himself, enemies, all that, amping himself for when he returns to present time. Because of the Miracle offspring, essentially we see thousands of Miracle Men offspring sprout up throughout the next several years. We see that Miracle Man is capable of some crazy hacks. He has empathy, soul manipulation, body swapping, age manipulation, instant disintegration, control over life and death, can bring back the dead, energy absorption, complete molecular control of his body, and when they revert back to their human form, they heal from the injuries they suffered in their other form. The longer Miracle Man is in his God form, the stronger he gets. We also see that true form Miracle Woman exists in a realm of comic book ideas, and we see from a later issue they exist outside of their fiction. So there is quite a bit of room for outerversal arguments. Now here's the conclusion of Miracle Man's power. At worst, Miracle Man has high tier immeasurable speed. He limits himself if he isn't imaginative, which grants him several new hacks throughout the story. If you want to lowball like attack potency, we know he scales vastly above the Fire Drake. Fire Drakes are known to control and cause supernovas, go completely unharmed by these supernovas, and one-shot stars like it's nothing. It's like child's play to them, and he massively scales above them. So that just gives you an idea of how powerful he is lowballed. However, like I said, there is arguments for outerversal, and in most situations he's just going to speed blitz a majority of your heroes and villains, especially in Marvel, if he was put into Marvel. Anyways, let me know what you think. Like I said, it's one of the best stories I've ever read, especially Alan Moore's writing up through like issue 16. From 16 to 24, it's like pretty good, very good ending, but I did prefer Alan Moore over Neil Gaiman in the writing. But yeah, pretty sure none of you have heard of this iteration of Miracle Man from Eclipse Comics. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, join my Patreon. Look at the deals there and support my channel. Help me grow. We're trying to take over and grow rapidly. I'm glad to be back. It's been your boy Sir Splash, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.